another disgusting and incredible quote. Well, this man goes on about forcing people into work and making them live off a £71 a week and less once you've been sanctioned. This man receives £1.5 million for his farm subsidy. What kind of system are we living in that these brazen criminals, these brazen thieves, turn around and say that those on welfare are scoundrels and not deserving of benefits? Where does this man get the right to claim £1.5 million worth of public money? And if we knew where one of his mansions, and he won't have the one mansion, he'll have a few mansions. If we knew where his mansion was, as Bertolt Brecht says, injustice isn't anonymous. It has a name and an address. And if Mr. Duncan Smith, we could find your mansion and we'll make a good try, we'll be in front of it with our banners and our voices and letting you know that we are not conned by the £1.5 million subsidy and probably the rest that you get from the public money, and that we reject and we name you as a vile individual responsible for hunger and for injury and for illness and for death. That is the kind of monsters that we are up against. So we say, Ian Duncan Smith! Ian Duncan Smith! Ian Duncan Smith! Ian Duncan Smith! They say cut back!
We say fight back!
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 Thank you. And I'll tell you what to do. The workfare. Workfare's a bra thing for these young people, young lasses, young laddies. They get sent to second-hand shops, the Salvation Army, to work for no money. They don't get a penny, but it's work experience. And when we questioned some of the managers there, they denied that they knew what was going on, but they do. And so, if the charities are that much in need of our money, then they should respect their young people as individuals and give them a working wage as well.
Right, this is the second time I'll tell you this, right? Venture capitalist John Nash, a £300,000 Tory party donor, right? Ian Duncan Smith gave him a £75 million government contract. In January 2013, David Cameron gave a life peerage, barring the Lord Nash. January 2013, Michael Gove put him in charge as the schools minister. He is in government now, a pig in the trough of public money. While we, the working class people, are made to access food banks and jump through hoops, applying for non-existing jobs, they are filling the bank accounts of their millionaire cronies. We have stood united against this onslaught from the Tory government. Well done, Abby, for coming down in the line and that. Thanks.
I've just got one thing to say to the people of Dundee. I'm a member of an anarchist group called Class War. And the next time we stand here, we'll be recruiting, possibly for this place. Our motto is class unity, class pride, and class war. And that's how we're going to attack it. We're looking for people coming from the brew, these young people that are getting abused by this state. And what we want them to do is come along, sign up for this organisation, that organisation, any organisation that is going to attack this miserable load of rubbish on and beat it. That's what our job is, to beat it. Thanks for coming along, Sam. Hi, how you doing here? I'm a working class lad. I've never been on the brew. I work for Aberdeen City Council. Thousands of workers work for Aberdeen City Council. We're all getting paid. Yeah, most of them are getting benefits because our wages don't cover their kids, don't cover what they work for. It's not just unemployed people that are getting sanctioned, it's working people that are feeling the poverty. It's them that's going to the food banks as well as unemployed people. When you're standing here on the Mondays and Wednesdays, Tuesdays and Thursdays, Wednesdays and Fridays, you meet people, hundreds of people who want to tell you about their experiences of the sanctions. who have made us realise when we began campaigning 3 months ago and we grew out of Dundee against DAWS because we were appalled and angered at the attacks on the disabled and the ill that were taking place. We used to have protests down there at the Green Market, but there wasn't enough folk. But here seems to be the best place. We're repeating some points, but as folks are passing, it's probably worthwhile repeating them. That this place in here holds the record in Scotland for the most sanctions. Since October 2012, we reckon, we're saying on the leaflets 4,840 odd. We've certainly met hundreds of people who've been sanctioned over the last few months, and that's certainly taken it up to over 5,000. Our plan is to organise a letter to the manager in here asking her to explain why it's the case that this place holds the Scottish record, just as down in Peckham there, it's the case that Peckham in South London holds the London records for the number of folk sanctioned. And we can say, almost scientifically, because we have the evidence of our own ears, that we have met hundreds of folk who have been sanctioned on the most mean and flimsiest of reasons. And we once again remind 3 years round the corner that we're not going to accept that your letters keep going missing and that you find a reason for sanctioning people when you phone up the job centre here to set up what we suspect is entirely fictitious, is entirely a fib, that people haven't received their letters and that people haven't turned up at appointments. So we continue the campaign against sanctions, and I have here in front of me some chants which some of you know and some of you might be unsure with. We don't have the chant sheets, but hopefully we're clear enough when we're making a response and we can get away from the speechifying and do a bit of the chanting. And the thing about chanting is that they hear us in there. The manager hears us in there, right? They're talking about pressure that they're under. What about the pressure that people facing sanctions are under? We say the way to break out of that pressure, the way to stop the powerful and wealthy from attacking us is to stand together. That's the lessons of history that will have to, unfortunately, be learned all over again. That solidarity is absolutely a material necessity. That we have to stand together in unity against the sanctions regime and against the war on welfare, which is widening to include more and more people. So when you're chanting, think about this man on the wall here. Is he a millionaire? Are 21 out of the Tory Cabinet's members of 22, they are all millionaires. What right do they have? What knowledge do they have of the situation that their cuts agenda is placing people in? And I'll repeat again the remarks of the man that runs Amazon. I don't know his name, but I liked what he was saying. It was from the point of view of the rich and the powerful. He was warning the rich and powerful friends of his that they will be coming after you with pitchforks. Think of your school history. Think of those unruly mobs, angered, made hungry with the violence of the system, who decide whether it's in this country with the Scottish weavers or whether it's with the French peasants saying no more, no more. And the man from Amazon talks about the French Revolution, whose slogans were equality, fraternity and liberty. And they talk about us all being in this together. Cameron talks about all being in this together. That sounds like equality, but it's not equality at all. The kind of wealth that these people have mean that they can spend. Norman's spoken about the Queen buying her son an 8 million helicopter. How many people would that keep alive in this city for how many years? Are we mugs when we stand around and do not protest against the gross inequalities of this system? That her Madge is over there at Rosyth breaking a bottle of malt whiskey over the bows of an aircraft carrier that costs billions, that will spread terror and violence to the people of this world while they're spreading poverty and terror in this country. We say unite against the sanctions, and here's some chance for us to try out. End all sanctions, end all cuts, no ifs, no buts. End all sanctions, end all cuts.
No ifs, no buts.
End all sanctions, end all cuts.
No ifs, no buts.
End all sanctions, end all cuts.
No ifs, no buts.
Welfare, not workfare. End the sanctions now. Welfare, not workfare.
End the sanctions now.
Welfare, not workfare.
End the sanctions now.
Welfare, not workfare.
End the sanctions now.
Welfare, not workfare.
End the sanctions now.
Welfare, not workfare.
End the sanctions now.
And if you haven't joined in the previous ones, get yourself ready for this one. Ian Duncan Smith. 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 This is the man who denies that there's a connection between sanctions, between welfare reform and poverty and hunger. We know there's people we've met here who have £24 to last a fortnight. Probably the amount of money he spends on the starter to some fancy meal at the Ritz in London. And I keep referring to your man from Amazon that no society in history has tolerated the levels of inequality that we have to experience here in this country. And once again I'll repeat his fear, because I enjoy the fear of the millionaires. They are coming after us. They will be coming after us with pitchforks. All we've got just now are banners and banner poles, megaphones and petition boards, leaflets and pens, and we won a battle here on Tuesday and in Glasgow on Monday for the right to take notes when you're inside the brew and to be accompanied, all of which are your rights. So let's do a couple more chants here. No ifs, no buts. We say no to welfare cuts. No ifs, no buts.
We say no to welfare cuts.
No ifs, no